We put on for our city. This is the Ask Us Sports Podcast with myself, Shane Miller, my good friend Viggy Betts over there with the glasses, looking cool, and then Kenbo, Jay, Slice, down at the bottom, Ken Mahoney. Viggy.
What up, Shane?
What up? Viggy, what's going on tonight, boy?
What's going on, Shane? What's going on, Ken? How are you guys?
I'm hanging in. I'm doing well. Did you guys have a good Memorial Day weekend?
It was a very eventful weekend. Traveled up to Pittsburgh to see some family for the weekend. It was quick, but it was a nice getaway for sure.
Same here. Went up north. Went up to Maine. Rained. It was a complete washout, but still nice to see the fam. Gotta love it. Can't complain.
You know, like a salesman, I had work all weekend, so I enjoyed it while I could. But I was off today, and I was out by the pool hanging out. So today's been good. Viggy, tell me what's going on tonight.
We got a packed show for all of you, including an exclusive NRFI that I will be dropping here, one of the late games. So stay tuned for that. We will be dropping that in the next 20 to 30 minutes, right, Shane?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ken, tell me what you got going on tonight.
Oh, let's see. After Viggy's can't miss NFRI, we got a collectible corner coming up, where we're going to discuss what's been going on in the card world the last week, and maybe we might have a little show and tell session with me and you. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. But it'd be a fun time, and we'll have some tidbits, we'll have some advice, and looking forward to it.
So moving right into hockey. We got the NHL Playoffs going on. Right now the Lightning are playing the Hurricanes. Lightning are up 1-0 in the series. Ken's Boston Bruins played last night and lost an OT. Heartbreaker. I mean, really not his Bruins. He's an Avs fan. Tell him about that Avs beatdown you guys put on the Knights.
Yeah. So as Shane is alluding to, I am a bit of a Bruins skeptic, despite growing up in the Boston area. The Bruins have never been my cup of tea. I think it goes back to the goalie. I do want to put it out there, though, that I'm not one of these bandwagon Tuukka haters. I've been hating Tuukka since before it was cool to hate Tuukka. So I just want to put that out there for all the listeners. But I have gravitated a little bit towards the Avalanche this year. Some of that is a selfish fantasy perspective. But, it must be nice to be an Avs fan right now. I know exactly that. I'm a complete bandwagoner, Avs fan. It's disgusting. I'm a disgrace. But it's just a lot of fun to watch the Avs play hockey. They look absolutely unbeatable. They just played, they just played the Vegas Knights in Game 1. They won 7-1. I think McKinnon had 2 goals. I believe Landeskog had 2 goals. Makar had another 4 points. 24 saves is all Grubauer needed. It was like a scrimmage. And I think this is like 4 straight games where Colorado has scored 5 or more goals. So I still don't see them losing. They haven't lost since they've only played 1 game since we talked last week because of how quickly they decimated St. Louis. I expect them to fully decimate Vegas, even though they didn't have Fleury. They're still going to decimate Fleury. And if you put any money on Colorado back at the beginning of the year, I think you're feeling pretty good about yourself. It's almost a cash check. Not quite. In Stanley Cup playoffs, anything can happen. But I think you should feel pretty optimistic.
No, absolutely. Lerner was in goal for Vegas. He was awful. Wasn't Fleury. So I fully expect when Fleury's in net that the Avs aren't going to win 7-1. But the Avs look unbeatable. Andy, thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's been really the thought process all year on Colorado. They have, let's not sleep on Grubauer, the Colorado goalie. He's definitely one of the best in the game also. But their offense, Colorado's had a pretty good offense all year as well, but there's just no match for Colorado, with Nathan McMinnon and company. It's going to be hard in a 7-game series, especially when they're on point like that, to just beat them 4 out of 7 times. It's similar in the Eastern Conference side. I know we'll touch on it, but Tampa Bay, kind of in a similar boat, winning game 1 close 2-1 against Carolina in the second round. Andre Vasilevsky, their goalie, is one of the best in the game as well, probably the best what we have right now remaining on the Eastern Conference side. So it would be fun if we were able to see a potential Colorado-Tampa Bay Stanley Cup final.
Steve, cover your ears. He didn't say Tuukka was the best goalie in the East. But I think the Lightning have a great shot to definitely represent the East in the NHL finals. I don't see the Bruins I see the Bruins probably beating the Islanders, but I see them getting decimated by the Lightning. Thoughts, Ken?
Yeah, pretty much agreed. I don't know if they'll get decimated by the Lightning. I think that'll be a long, drawn-out 6 or 7 game series. That's kind of how Tampa and Boston like to go at it. Tampa does have this kind of loophole with Kucherov. I know I'm not probably the right guy to speak on it, but I know that he didn't play all year, and that he kind of was able to make it onto the playoff roster, and it didn't necessarily count against the cap fully. And I don't know. They played it sneaky. It almost reminded me of the Patriots, but they're pulling it off. And Kucherov cut up the speed pretty quickly, so they're going to be tough to beat. I know a few hours ago they announced the Vesna Trophy finalists, and Vasilevsky is one of them. To no surprise of anybody that watches the NHL. But then, interestingly, the other 2 finalists are Grubauer and Fleury. So to Shane's point, if there is a wild card that could help the Knights make that a series, maybe it's the duel between the 2 Vesna finalists, if you will.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much all we have for hockey tonight. If anyone has any questions that's watching, please send them to us. I'll display them on the screen. We'll go over them. Also, before we move on to basketball, Viggy Betts, Andy Vigilati does have an exclusive NRFI for tonight. So stay tuned. That'll be right after the basketball segment.
Getting some bad luck back tonight, man. It has been just a rough bad beat night, man. I'm telling you. We're gonna get it back here in a few minutes. Trust me.
You saved the best for last.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely right.
So moving on to basketball. We've got the playoffs going on currently. Obviously, we've got the Suns that are just kind of, they're sticking with the Lakers and LeBron. I want to say Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton are going to be enough. It looks like Anthony Davis isn't playing tonight. It looks like it could be the Suns going up 3-2 in that series. Ken, how are you feeling?
Feeling good about the potential of that happening. If you listened or watched last week, I was very excited about the upbringing of the West, this sort of upheaval, if you will, from all the young talent. Ja Morant looks like he's going to go down to Utah. The rest of the series are actually all neck and neck. The West is going to be a long, drawn-out dogfight, it looks like. And, I don't know if Anthony Davis is cut out for that this year. He's – I don't know if he's feeling a little validated from the win last year, but the Lakers don't look the same to me, and they don't look like the type of team that is ready to repeat in the West. AD's got his groin issue, doesn't look like he's going to play. Saw some interesting tidbits that the Lakers are no longer the favorite to come out of the West. Utah has passed them in the odds in the Vegas realm. The Suns are actually now favored to win the series because of Davis's injury. And something that really stuck out to me is the fact that, for all the perseverance and talk of how great LeBron James is, he's really not shooting the ball well at all. I think this is his worst shooting performance since 2011. That's a decade ago. He's shooting 58% from the free throw line. I mean, this is supposed to be the greatest of all time. 58% from the free throw line in the playoffs. He's shooting 40% of his shots from 3, so he's really not driving in the lane or doing anything that LeBron typically does to take over a basketball game. I don't think they have it this year. The Suns should take care of this one, I think.
Yeah, it does look like LeBron's not looking like the LeBron of old. Andy, is LeBron succumbing to his age?
I think in terms of being able to solely lead a team, yeah, I think with all the up-and-coming teams in the West, I think it's going to be hard for LeBron to solely do it by himself. You have guys like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. If they still have to win 2 out of 3 against these guys. Devin's averaging 25 points a game in this series, and you still have Chris Paul with the Suns as well. And without Anthony Davis, I mean, he was one of their sole reasons for winning, the championship last year. He was just a man on a mission last year. And, LeBron has proved this year that he's just not he's not healthy like he was last year when they won the championship. And I just don't think he's 100%. And on top of that, would basically have to lead a team, to victory without Anthony Davis, their youngest star. And I think that makes a difference in this series. I really do.
It's funny that Anthony Davis is their youngest star.
Yeah, that is crazy. So moving on, I saw a pretty cool tweet about Trae Young. I don't know if I would quite compare the two, but someone was tweeting out after the game the other night that Trae Young kind of reminded him of a young Tony Parker. I don't know if you guys see that. I think he's a much better shooter than probably TP ever was. But I kind of like that comparison. Andy, what do you think?
Man, he is a marksman, man. I'm telling you. It's just the way that this league has transitioned to these sharpshooters. Steph Curry really had done that, and now you got guys like Trae Young on the other side in the Eastern Conference. It's just been phenomenal to watch, and he's really led this Atlanta Hawks team to a chance to go to the second round. You can say, well, the Knicks weren't ready yet. Well, we weren't saying that a couple weeks ago. We were all excited about the New York Knicks. So here you have Trae Young and company, on the verge of going to the second round. This really will start to cement Trae Young's status in this game and in this league if he can lead the Atlanta Hawks to a deep playoff run.
Ken, what do you think? Do you think Tony Parker's a fair comparison, or would you pin him for someone else?
I think the way they play and wouldn't necessarily make that comparison, though. I think I get where the tweet is coming from. The Trae sort of inspires this, or you watch him and he has this confidence, this playoff confidence that kind of transitions itself so well to the basketball court, and it's something you kind of saw with Parker. Back in the day, he was lethal. He was just an elite performer, always rose to the occasion, and maybe Trae Young is stepping into that same sort of mold. I think between Trae Young and Clint Capella and how they've been handling this series, it almost has made it like a WWE Royal Rumble of sorts. The way the Knicks and the Hawks are sort of going at it, and Capella's kind of throwing his jabs in there. And Trae's confidence is certainly noteworthy and something I think is going to propel him to the next level. I don't even think it needs to be a deep playoff run. I think if you're competitive in the next round, which I certainly expect them to be, regardless of the opponent, I think Trae is certainly on the right trajectory.
So my thing with Trae is everyone says, like Andy alluded to, that he's a marksman. But right now he's averaging 25 points in the playoffs and 9 assists a game. I mean, not everyone looks at Trae as this facilitator. And I think him being a marksman, that makes him even more lethal because people are expecting him to pull up and shoot the three. If he decides to, go around him and hit a floater like he did the other night against the Knicks, that's just another layer to his game that we haven't really seen from Trae Young. So I really think Trae Young is the potential next face of the NBA. I think he's that good.
Would you compare him closer to a Steph Curry or to a James Harden in terms of his play style? Because I think that might get it a little towards the root of the issue here. Is like Steph to me is like that sniper, that dagger, that marksman. Whereas James Harden, for all the great shooting that he does, he's also able to facilitate, I think, a little more to the next level. as opposed
No,
to
that's definitely a good point that I never really looked at. I mean, James Harden really is more of a combo guard than he is just a shooter. So I guess maybe you'd put him closer to Harden. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think for me, he's just developing as one of the best scorers in this game, and that's something that it's not just a scoring. He can play make too. He's dishing the ball. He's really setting up his teammates well. And if you're talking about an all around player, a guy who can get you triple doubles, night in and night out, like a Russell Westbrook, like a James Harden, like you alluded to. I think that's a solid comparison because James Harden, in his Houston days especially, he wasn't just scoring. He was doing everything. He was a stats marksman, if you will.
Yeah, he definitely stuffed the stat sheet. And Trae Young's also averaging 4 rebounds a game. So, I mean, he definitely gets it done on the boards as far as guard rebounding goes. I mean, it's not Russell Westbrook numbers, but it's still good. I mean, Russell Westbrook's a much more physical player.
Exactly.
But Trae Young is I don't want to say single-handedly because the Hawks have been good collectively, but he really is putting a dagger in the Knicks fans' hearts this year. But the Knicks have a good team, and I expect them to continue to grow. I just don't think this year's their year. Moving forward, we have the incident with the infamous bottle thrower in Boston who got arrested for throwing a water bottle at Kyrie Irving. But also Kyrie Irving disrespected the Celtics mascot, stepped on Lucky's face, which is, a sin to most Celtics players. And KG and Big Baby Glenn Davis let everyone know about it. Ken, since you're from Boston, what's the word on the street? What are you hearing?
Yeah, Kyrie, he's ruffling feathers. He's gotten under the skin. The local media has kind of played into it a little bit. It's kind of like the type of thing where you wish you could just kind of not let Kyrie get under your skin. The stuff with the water bottle and stuff like that, you don't really want to see that. I think the chants are one thing, and I think the chants are really what does the most damage. It's clear that, to me anyway, as a biased green teamer that I am, that Kyrie can't handle the pressure that is playing under these lights in Boston, and with the way that he handled the situation in Boston, I think he's just his own worst enemy. I think he's a bit of a head case, and the fact that he has sort of, brought different elements into this that are more than in basketball kind of goes to show the nature of what he is. I don't think it's any surprise to Boston fans because, I think a lot of our disdain of Kyrie Irving stems from the fact that he showed up in his opening press conference and said, along the lines of Boston, if you'll have me, I'd love to be here. And then less than a year later, he quit on the team. I think that's probably why we don't like Kyrie Irving. And, he stumped on Lucky. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to get a rise. He certainly did. The Nets are probably going to win this series. Good for them. But, I certainly am not surprised by Kevin Garnett speaking up. Kevin Garnett is the type of guy that's not going to let anything go quietly. There's plenty of stories of him trash talking during his playing career against guys like LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and the other elites during his time. So it doesn't surprise me that he spoke up. I think if you want to get a really, really good opinion on the situation and just a really well thought out, well said take, the best person to go listen to would be Jalen Brown's press conference. Jalen had some opinions. I don't need to reiterate them or anything, but Jalen, I think, shared things in a very good light, a very clear light, and I think that sort of epitomizes the situation a little bit. As far as the basketball game, we don't like Kyrie. Kyrie doesn't like Boston. It's sort of like a new age rivalry, if you will. And, as long as it stays on the basketball court, it's not bad for the game of basketball. That's for sure.
No, absolutely. I really don't like that Kyrie went as far as to disrespect the Celtics by stomping on Lucky. But KG, like you said, he isn't going to let that go. He isn't going to let that fly. He's really been the vocal leader of Boston since he's played for Boston. So I expected nothing less from him. I loved seeing Big Baby step up and say something. Of course, Kevin Durant's going to put the laughing emojis and act like he's a big tough guy, but he knows if push comes to shove and Big Baby's there to fight, he's not fighting. Andy, what do you think of the whole situation?
I'm going to save my non-Boston supporters here and not just talk about what happened with Boston and Kyrie Irving. There's been multiple incidents here. You kind of touched on that one. There's been multiple instances in this first-round landscape in the NBA playoffs that really I just don't understand what fans are thinking and why are they thinking they can do this. We had a playoff in the bubble last year without any fans. It was all virtual, and we were all longing for the day that us fans can come back and enjoy the game up close and personal. And now we have dumbass fans that are trying to put themselves in the limelight for whatever reason. It started off with the 76ers fan throwing popcorn on Russell Westbrook. And what was that about? Why? I just don't understand where we are as a society that we think that, yes, can we say that NBA players are entitled or most athletes are entitled to a degree? Yes. But that gives us no right to be able to put their lives or put their safety in danger. A Knicks fan spitting at Trae Young. I mean, this is COVID-19 era right now. Are you kidding me? Why are we as a society doing this? It just makes zero sense. And then you touched on the Celtics fan throwing water at Kyrie Irving. A fan running out yesterday live in the third quarter of an NBA playoff game against the 76ers and the Wizards. It's just mind-boggling to me. John Morant's family was harassed by Jazz fans with racist and sexist insults. That's another one. And then the last one being a Knicks, Emmanuel Quickly said someone threw beer on him at MSG during the series with the Atlanta Hawks. So there's just been many incidents, some talked about more than others, of fans just getting in the way of an NBA playoff series. It just angers me, to be honest with you, because like I said, we lived in a COVID environment for more than a year where we could not attend as fans NBA, Major League Baseball, National Football League, you name it, any sporting event because of the sphere of COVID-19. And we come back in 25% capacity, 50% capacity, and now some stadiums and some leagues are going to the 100% capacity level. And now we're seeing incidents like this. It's just shameful. It's embarrassing. And it should not be tolerated at any level or any sport in today's day and age, or any age.
No, I definitely agree. The fans are just being outrageous, and it's going to be, it's going to be the reason that they could end up going back to the bubble to finish the playoffs. You never know. I doubt they do, but it could be an option if fans keep interfering like this. Moving on, I want to touch on the Dallas Mavericks and the Clippers series. Ken, do you think Luka can lead the Mavs over the Clippers, or do you think the Clippers are going to wrap this up?
I believe that the Mavericks have as good a shot to take this as the next guy, or as any Dallas fan, I guess. I do believe in Luka. I believe that the Clippers guys, for everything that Paul George is on the court in terms of his statistics and his regular season numbers, we haven't really seen him put it all together, at least not anything that I've certainly been impressed with to the point to think that he's the type of guy that's going to lead a team all the way to the end. I know Kawhi has certainly done it before and he can do it again, but also he's not the same guy in terms of his durability, in terms of his workload. He hasn't played back-to-backs for a full minute allotment in many years now. And while I do like the Clippers' depth, and they may win this series, they very likely could. I'd put it a little bit more towards a coin flip. I think Dallas is Luka's built for this game, and especially in the NBA, usually the best talent wins, and I still believe he is the best player on the court. So I give them a chance. I think he's Luka's special, and he's going to continue to ascend. And as I've certainly said many a times, I'm all about the youth movement. So I don't think it's any surprise that I'm taking the Dallas youngins over the Clippers sort of grizzly vets.
No, absolutely. I think Luka is obviously a generational talent, and I think he's got what it takes to be able to shut down Paul George and or Kawhi Leonard. I think he could guard either one and be effective. Andy, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with Ken. I mean, I think Luka is a generational talent. I think by the end of his career, we could be talking about, Luka being one of the greatest players, at least statistically, in this game. I would love to see Luka. He doesn't need to win as many championships as Kobe or Michael Jordan or whatnot. But if he can stay kind of similar to Dirk Nowitzki, in his era with the Dallas Mavericks, if Luka can win one or two championships as a Dallas Maverick and be a legendary player for that organization, we're going to cement him as one of the best probably to ever play this game in that sense. Luka's averaging 33, 8, and 8 in the postseason. But to be honest, I just don't know if they have a complete team to be able to go at least past the first round. I think it's possible that they could get past the Los Angeles Clippers and go beyond the first round, but I would like to see a little bit more from guys like Kristaps Porzingis, who's averaging 15 points per game, but only averaging 4 rebounds and less than 2 assists. But really the rebounds for me, I just would like to see more of a supporting cast consistently around Luka. Obviously Luka does a lot, but guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kristaps Porzingis, Boban Marjanovic, guys like those 3 guys specifically would love to be able to see a little bit more consistency out of to be able to just move farther than, say, the first round, or even if they were to get past the Clippers, they would still most likely be facing a Utah team very hungry for a late playoff run, being, they're one of the top seeds, if not the top seed in the Western Conference, and a loaded Western Conference, I might add.
No, absolutely. I really like Luka. I think Josh Richardson needs to step up too. Mm-hmm. If they can get the supporting cast like, JJ Redick, Hardaway, Boban,
Brunson,
Willie Cauley-Stein, Josh Richardson, all those guys to step up with Luka, I think they're a pretty formidable team. I don't think they've got what it takes to beat Utah. I think Utah is just a little more deep with Conley, Mitchell, and they've got Gobert, who is probably the best defensive center that the NBA has seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. Just like, to what Matt Parrish had said, Luka's just one guy. And I don't think that they would have enough to be able to get past Utah this year. Definitely see him doing well down the line. So moving on, what a lot of people are here for. They're here for the man, Viggy Betts in the glasses. He's got something special. What are you cooking, Viggy?
Well, it's finally that time. I just hope that the fan base who is coming on for the NRFI stays after we give out this NRFI pick, because I feel like we have a great show and we have 2 other fantastic sports minds other than myself spitting out some great facts and insight and information. But we do have an exclusive NRFI that I promised, and I'll be tweeting it out after the program, after we're live. It is a 10:10 Eastern time first pitch between the Oakland Athletics and the Seattle Mariners. We have Chris Bassett going on the mound for Oakland with Marco Gonzalez coming off the injured list for Seattle, making his 6th start of the season for the Mariners. First, let's start with Chris Bassett. He's been awesome this year. 8-3, no run first inning this season with 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings and under 3 walks per 9, 2.1 on the season. Once you get to 3, it is a little bit of a red flag, but 2.1 is solid. 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, and 1.00 even on the walks, hits, innings pitched. On top of that, Seattle just lost Kyle Lewis for the foreseeable future. He just got injured, and he will not be around. So that is one less big-time Seattle Mariner you got to deal with for Bassett. And then Seattle is 24th in the first inning scoring-wise this season, and they're 25th at home. So take, big-time faith in Chris Bassett. He cashed 5-6 days ago in his matchup against the Angels. I believe he does it again on the road in Seattle tonight with Marco Gonzalez. 4-1 this season on the no-run first inning line. His stats don't look great this year. I get it. I completely understand it. Got to look a little bit deeper tonight. 2.81 ERA in the first inning since the beginning of the 2020 season that consists of 16 starts. And he has a 2.5 ERA in his last 3 starts. That's 5 earned runs in his last 18 innings. He did give up 12 earned in his first 2 starts. So really his first 2 starts, Marco Gonzalez, are really what's inflating his ERA and his numbers. You got to look at his last 3 starts prior to going on the injured list. The Oakland Athletics 28th in first inning scoring this season, and that same 28th ranking on the road. So the Oakland Athletics and the Seattle Mariners is your exclusive NRFI this evening, 10:10 Eastern first pitch. We've had some bad beats today, just bad beats today. The biggest one being in Cleveland with the White Sox and the Indians, and had a couple home runs in the first inning tarnish our day to this point. But we're going to get it back with our Oakland, Seattle, NRFI at 10:10 Eastern time this evening. Lock it in.
You heard it from the man himself, 10:10 Eastern.
Saving the best for last.
You've got the Oakland Athletics against the Seattle Mariners, Chris Bassett versus Marco Gonzalez. That is the Ask Us Sports podcast exclusive NRFI play of the day. Ken, I have a quick betting question for you.
Uh-oh.
Yep. You've got $100. You've got to place it today. Who wins the Super Bowl?
Oh, you know how I like to play these questions. I don't pick the team with the best odds because that's boring and no one wants to pick the Kansas City Chiefs or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with $100. A free $100, let it ride, let it turn into some money. You could put it on the Houston Texans and, turn that $1,000 into, was it like 20? I don't even want to know. They're like plus 20,000.
20 million? No.
Yeah. So do the math. I'm a sports guy. So I think I would want to put my money onto one of those middle tier teams, the plus 1,300, plus 1,400 teams. The one that jumps out to me is actually the Buffalo Bills. For a couple of reasons. They were very strong last year. They had a very good showing, a very deep run, almost was able to make some noise there against Mahomes and the Chiefs. However, they had some glaring holes. They had some issues on the defensive side. The defense had peaked at the right time. I know that they weren't always as consistent throughout the year. They definitely addressed that on the defensive end. They drafted Basham, and I believe his name is Rousseau. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, but they definitely shored up their pass rush to go along with an already formidable back seven. And they have, in addition to Josh Allen, take note of that, Shane, guarantee button. In addition to Josh Allen, who continues to grow, continues to ascend, he had ridiculous, he hopped over a skyscraper last year in terms of how much he grew. It was incredible. And Stephon Diggs proved that he was a true number one receiver, a top 5 receiver in the league. I think he'll solidify that this year, and the team around him continues to get better. The one thing they need to do is run the football. They were middle of the pack. They couldn't run when it mattered. I'm not sure Devin Singletary's the guy. Zach Moss might be. The two together maybe can make up one very formidable running back. You give me $1,000, I'm gonna roll with it. I'm gonna throw it out there, and I think those middle tier teams, those Baltimores, those San Franciscos, those Buffaloes, in my case, those are the teams I think I would want to put that money on. Indy potentially, one of those middle of the road pack teams that you never know might surprise some people.
No, absolutely. And Matt Parrish, you've been an awesome listener, and I may have to hire you as an idea guy. That guarantee button sounds pretty awesome. Andy, you got $100 like Ken did. You can make one bet on one NFL team to win the Super Bowl. I think I have an idea which way you're rolling, but who you go with?
Andy's muted.
My bad. Shane, that's your job. You're supposed to unmute me.
You muted yourself.
Damn it, Shane.
We've talked about this offline. I'm a believer in the Indianapolis Colts. You kind of touched on it, Ken, right at the end. Those mid-tier teams where you can get some value. You really look at what the Indianapolis Colts have developed over the last couple years, and I think they can cement it this year. A strong upcoming season. Their offensive line anchored by Quentin Nelson, adding Eric Fisher up front, really, I think, solidifies themselves as one of the best offensive line units in all of the NFL. On top of that, adding a Carson Wentz, who I think is motivated to really kind of re-energize his prospects, re-energize his career. Of course, Frank Reich and his familiarity with Carson Wentz, to me, I think is a big deal. I think that's a huge benefit for Carson Wentz. And then the running game with Jonathan Taylor and company really benefits Carson Wentz as well, because he doesn't have to do everything. He doesn't have to have all the pressure on him to drop back 40 to 50 times a game to win. And Jonathan Taylor is a workhorse back in this league, and I think that is huge. And then the second year, Michael Pittman really, I think, takes the charge at the wide receiver position this year for the Indianapolis Colts. You still have guys like Zach Pascal and T.Y. Hilton re-signing in the offseason. That's just on the offensive side. You look at guys like Justin Houston, Darius Leonard, on the defensive side, DeForest Buckner on the defensive line, Denico Autry. They just are loaded with depth on the defensive line. And then their secondary is no slouch either. Guys like Xavier Rhodes, Kenny Moore, Justin Blackman in the secondary really, to me, solidify this defense. And if you're going to make the Super Bowl out of the AFC, you have to defend guys like Patrick Mahomes, guys like Ken just mentioned, Josh Allen. You really have to have guys in the secondary, but also on the defensive front to be able to get pressure on guys like Patty and guys like Josh Allen and company. Justin Herbert is up and coming in the West as well. So it just really comes down to being a complete team. And I last time I checked, I think you can get the Indianapolis Colts around plus 2,000, somewhere in that range. So to me, that's a huge value pick, and I see Indianapolis really starting to make a deep run this coming season.
I think they even got to like plus 2,500 too at one point. But I love the call. You know, Michael Pittman is going to really take a step forward, I think, as well this year. And I think the one other thing is Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich is a fantastic coach. Probably, in my opinion, might be a top 3 coach in the league. You know, he's had some terrible quarterback luck, I'll call it. And I hope Wentz is finally that guy for him.
No, absolutely. The Colts are a great pick. I'm going to go a little outside of the box, I think, and go with the Washington Redskins. I really love their defense. I think it's very good. I know Ken's shaking his head, rolling his eyes at me.
Man,
Of
football.
course,
Football, Shane.
he's thinking, of course, this is a total Shane pick. But I like what Fitzpatrick brings to that team. I know they need a quarterback, but I think Fitzpatrick could maybe be that Brad Johnson, if you will, or that Trent Dilfer, if you will, of a great defensive team, and he manages the offense. He's got Scary Terry. He's got Curtis Samuel. He's got Adam Humphries. Antonio Gibson proved to be a pretty good running back last year. I really think he's got the weapons to be able to make some Fitz magic, if you will. And I'm sure the odds for the Redskins are insane. So $100, and when the Redskins win, you've got to pay me, Ken, okay?
Okay. Yep. I was unsure if you thought Dwayne Haskins was still the quarterback, and that's why you made that call.
I do love Dwayne Haskins, but
Steven's right, by the way. We are completely hipsters with these calls. We should just be taking the Buccaneers and calling it a day.
Yeah, but we've got to – I appreciate that, and obviously I want Brady to get another ring, but we got to try – you want to try and make a little money, and if – we had our wish, that happens. Look, Matt Parrish loves the football team, and that's why I'm riding with the people, and the people want the football team.
And the people don't want any more Tom Brady Super Bowls. Okay, let's get that.
That's true.
Let's get that out of the equation right now. So I'm with the people on that.
Andy, I've already told you your daughter's getting a Brady jersey. It's gonna be a Patriots Brady jersey though.
So Shane, big tidbit here. She loves throwing things. Julia, my daughter, loves throwing things into the fireplace, and that'll be her number one item to throw in the fireplace this winter if you get that for her birthday.
Brutal.
Fantastic. All right, so let's actually move into some MLB. We've seen the Rays overtake the Red Sox in the AL East. They're on an insane win streak. The Rays are super hot. Great team. So, Ken, are we bound to see two AL East teams in the ALCS?
Bound? I think it's interesting because the laws probably don't equate to a 50-50 coin flip, but I think it could be a 50-50 coin flip. I think we're destined to see one of them between the Red Sox and the Rays, both of whom are having fantastic seasons to start. What the Red Sox are doing with Alex Cora, fantastic. He certainly brings out the best in this team. It's not that much. Oh, the Orioles. Yeah, you can't forget the Orioles. In terms of AL East teams, you can't rule them out. Kidding, of course. But we have the Reds, as I said, the Red Sox, they're going to hopefully get Chris Sale back. Hopefully we can even add to the rotation. I think we have a really, really good lineup that's actually starting to look like a full team plus farm system. We haven't had some young talent in many years. We actually have some exciting young talent in the minors that's hitting, if you can believe it. Like we are going to break the top 100 prospects now for a couple of years, and that's something I think Red Sox fans have missed ever since the Dombrowski campaign. But as well as the Rays, the Rays, they are the masters at what they do. They are so good at being able to manipulate the rules of baseball. They've mastered the bullpen game. They have all these young talents. Patino comes to mind. And then they roll them out there. They limit their workloads. They combine their starts into games. They play an unorthodox way of baseball that I think a lot of older managers might not be able to keep up with. And that's kind of why I give the Rays the inside track over teams like the White Sox, because of who is managing the White Sox. And because, I think if you're not smart or if you're not careful, a bench coach, a manager can be detrimental to your team. As much as I do love the White Sox and what they are building, the West looks like it's kind of tripping over itself. I do like the Oakland Athletics. I think the Astros are being written off because of the cheating scandal, and that's probably unwise to do. I think it's probably a 50-50 shot whether we'll see two AL East teams in the ALCS. But it certainly would look like that is going to be, in my opinion, a combination of the Red Sox, the White Sox, and the Rays. So if the White Sox sneak in there, That'll sort of throw a wrinkle into your plans there, Shane. But gun to my head, I'm going to say that the CS might end up being. This is gonna hurt the Red Sox faithful, but I think it's going to be Rays and White Sox. And it hurts me a little to say that, but that's what my gut's telling me.
No, that's definitely fair. And we've got Steven saying the warm weather players in Chicago are about to come out to play even harder, which is true. But as you can see, the warm weather has heated up Hunter Renfroe, who in the month of May hit .319, had 6 homers, 15 RBIs, 17 runs scored. And he was someone that the Red Sox picked up this offseason where I thought he would be a huge piece to the puzzle in Boston. And he's proving himself to be one of the catalysts that kept the Red Sox going in May. And he's started to hit pretty well in June. So let's hope he continues that. Andy, do you think it's a Red Sox Rays ALCS, or do you think Chicago sneaks in?
Yeah, to me, it's going to be close. Here's the thing with it comes down to how the playoff scenarios are going to work. For that to really happen and be a guarantee, we're going to need 3 AL East teams to make the postseason. Because more than likely at this point, the team with the best record in the American League is going to come out of the American League East, which means they would play the winner of the wild card round, if I'm not mistaken. So whether that's Tampa Bay, whether that's Boston, we'll see. Boston 32-21, 2 games back of the Rays, who are in first place and have won 15 of 16 or 16 of 17, if I'm not mistaken. So the Rays are 35-20 right now and in first place, and that is the best record in the American League, possibly all of baseball, but we're targeting the American League right now. So Tampa Bay right now would play the winner of the wild card round, and that right now would be Boston, Cleveland are the 2 wild card teams. You have Houston, who is tied for the second spot with Cleveland. So really, say Boston plays Cleveland or Houston in that round, and the Yankees are only a half game back. So really, what it comes down to is, Boston or whoever plays in that wild card game, they have to win that wild card game, right? So to get to that round, but then they're going to play the best team, the number 1 seed, I should say, in the American League, which right now most likely comes out of the American League East. So we would need 3 playoff teams essentially from the American League East to potentially do that. And on top of that, have the number 1 seed not come out of the American League East, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not you could say it's 50-50, but I think it's a long shot right now, just with the way that the seeding is going to take place, if that makes sense. The Chicago White Sox are the number 2 seed in the AL right now, leading the AL Central. And then you have Oakland, a half game up in the AL West. So it's going to be a really tight race, and it's going to be fun to watch, I'll say, as we get into the summer months here and really towards the trade deadline season to see what these teams want to position themselves and where they need to add to really cement themselves here in this race.
That's really good points. I think it's possible. We'll see. I still have faith in the Red Sox. I still think they need to pick up another pitcher, most likely to really cement themselves as a super solid contender moving forward. Going into our next subject, it's a very interesting one. I want to know, Ken, do you believe Shohei Itani could pitch and hit long term, or do you think this is just a couple season thing and then they're either going to have him pitch or hit?
I think he could and probably wants to continue this as long as he can, and he certainly can do it at an above average level. My concern would be at one point in time, I could see the Angels trying to preserve him and sort of honing in on one specific skill set. What he's doing is amazing. It's Babe Ruth-esque. He might be the best all-around baseball player we've seen since Babe Ruth. It's kind of tough to argue it. Just look at these numbers he's putting up. He has a 927 OPS as an everyday DH, essentially, when he's not pitching. He's got 15 homers, he's got 40 ribbies, and I believe he's got 7 stolen bases, and all 3 of those lead his team that he plays with Mike Trout on. He's got 36 innings pitched, 50 strikeouts, striking out over 12 per 9, and his ERA is 2.7. And those are great pitchers' numbers that are getting overshadowed by his offense. So if you were to ask me, I could see the Angels at one point or another saying to themselves, what he's doing is really cool. It's really awesome to see, and it's very entertaining for the game of baseball. But is it what's best for the Angels? And I wonder if they had more pitching depth, how willing would they be to roll him out there every 5th day? They don't have a lot of pitching depth, and they don't have a lot in the pipeline coming up. So I would think that if they had some money to throw around in free agency, or they had some extra arms, that pitching Shohei every 5th day wouldn't be a priority, and you would start to see him transition more to the everyday hitter's role.
Absolutely. I do like Itani. I think he's been great as a pitcher. Well, I mean, I would say above average, but great as a hitter. He's really the full package. Andy, do you believe he's got what it takes to be able to do both long term?
Long term, it's tough to say. I think Ken really hit it on all aspects here, 1,000%. And I think when it comes down to Shohei's arm long term, will it hold up? Just having Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago, that takes at least a year, if not 18 months, close to 2 years. Even when you come back, you're still not 100%. So what Shohei Itani is doing right now from a pitching standpoint is really unbelievable. And I just don't see him long-term, especially with he being with the American League, being in the DH league right now. And I think we get both DH, both leagues doing the DH here very, very soon. But the advantage of Shohei being in the American League with the DH long term, I think they eventually move him into that role, or even as an outfielder when they get some more pitching depth in the next couple of years. We've seen guys at the DH spots into the late 30s, early 40s just rake. Nelson Cruz, David Ortiz, Edgar Martinez, just guys that I can think of off the top of my head who are just complete sluggers and can hit the ball and really preserve their careers as a designated hitter. And we're talking about Shohei, who's only 26 right now, or 27. So he's got plenty of time to still pitch. But I think long-term, he's going to be exclusively a hitter, and he's going to be a pretty damn good one.
Absolutely. I feel like he's definitely going to end up just transitioning to be a hitter. I think he's got maybe 2 more years of pitching left in him, and then I think the Angels eventually fade him out into just being either a DH or maybe even playing the outfield a little. We have seen that a little bit this year. So moving forward, we're actually going to switch sports. We're going to jump back into football. The first topic that we have tonight in our football docket is something that came up on Twitter earlier. Was the Vikings leaked a call, or the Panthers leaked a call, from the Vikings during the draft, where the Vikings actually called them about trading up to pick 8 to nab Justin Fields. Andy, what do you think about that?
That's interesting. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers doing this. Was this after they traded for Sam Darnold, I'm assuming? This was draft night that they did this, or was this talks pre-Sam Darnold?
This was draft night. This was on pick 8.
Draft night. Okay. Well, that's interesting then, considering they just traded for Sam Darnold, trying to make a move. Now, I'm sure Sam Darnold maybe would have been in a trade to Minnesota, assuming that.
No. Minnesota called Carolina about moving up to Carolina's pick.
Oh, Minnesota did. Okay, my apologies. I was going to say. I thought that. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Minnesota did that.
Sounded wrong.
Interesting. Okay, there we go. So really, with Kirk Cousins there, that would have been a solid move to me. Kirk, I don't think is a long-term answer there in Minnesota, and we saw them take Kellen Mond. That's kind of their consolation prize, if you will. Justin Fields in with Minnesota and purple and gold like that would have been really interesting. You think with guys like Justin Jefferson, pairing him together, and Irv Smith at tight end and Dalvin Cook as the running back. That would have been a very intriguing offense to watch with Justin Fields at the helm for sure.
Now, instead of the Vikings having Justin Fields, backing up Kirk and Kirk maybe getting dealt, they're going to be facing him 2 times a year, Ken. Do you think the Vikings should have offered more? Apparently, the offer was the Vikings pick at 14, a third, and a fifth to move up to 8. Do you think they should have offered more to secure Fields?
If they really wanted him, then they should have offered more. That was just the way that this draft was trending with the quarterback hysteria. If you wanted the guy, you had to go get him. Or in the case of Belichick, waiting for the 5th guy to follow you. Different topic. But I kind of like Kellen Mond, I think, more than the rest of the landscape does. He's got this like Dak Prescott vibe to me, and I don't know if that's craziness, but we'll see how that all translates. I do like Fields. I think he's great. I think offering more than that puts you at risk because the Vikings do have other holes that they needed to address on the defensive end mainly. And you have a quarterback now, Kellen Mond, 2 backup Cousins that is certainly not NFL ready. But you don't know what he is yet. And I think Kirk gets beat up a lot. He's getting beat up in our in our chat room as we speak. And rightfully so at times. He does tend to sort of wet himself in big moments and has a way of screwing things up a lot of the times. But I think he gets a bad rap. I think he's a serviceable NFL quarterback. You have one of the best young wide receivers in the game. And I think you're on the right trajectory. And unless you really thought Justin Fields was the answer, I think offering more, I think maybe standing pat was the right move given everything that we had, because they weren't going to start Fields this year. I can't imagine, unless they were going to do something with Cousins. I can't imagine that they were going to cut Cousins or trade Cousins or do anything of the sort. I don't think you could have. So they would have been taking Fields as a backup, and I don't know. I think it was the right thing to do, was to take a backup QB that you can try and develop. And I think they'll be able to tell in a year or two if they have one or not, and then they'll reassess, because Cousins is still going to be around for a little while, and they're still an up-and-coming team. And as on the contrary of Bailey Woods, I don't think he's that bad. But again, he's a quarterback that people have a strong opinion about a lot of the time. So I certainly understand the talks, though. I think he deserves a little bit more credit than he usually gets.
So let's not forget too that a big thing with Kirk is he's on this new age like MLB type contract in the NFL where his contract's completely guaranteed. He's got 2 years left, $56 million. So
Right.
Regardless of where he goes, that money's guaranteed. Even if you release him, you still got to pay him. So the Vikings are obviously probably, from what I read, was that they would have tried to trade him at some point. Fields would have been backing up Kirk to at least start the season, but then they would have been looking to move him to a team. I mean, you probably could have seen him end up in Washington, maybe.
Back in Washington.
Back to DC to Bailey Woods.
That's interesting.
But moving on, I have a question for you, my friend Ken. Are the Arizona Cardinals, are they a Super Bowl contender, or are they held back by their head coach?
Yes, I don't hate Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's a good coach. I think they're contenders, and I say that because of 2 players. And that might be my New England homer mentality, thinking the player-coach combo is enough to get it done, but I still believe in Kingsbury, and I certainly, definitely 100% believe in Kyler Murray. This is the third year, I believe, of this tandem duo. The third year is where you should see a step forward. I expect it. I think if we don't see it, the GM and Kingsbury might be out of here. So I think they know that. They know there's pressure to win now, and they know that there's pressure with Kyler Murray to win now as well, because if you're not used to watching a lot of Arizona games, I would say Kyler Murray is probably your best dual threat quarterback that we have ever seen. That's, peak Cam, peak Lamar. I still think Kyler has the potential to be that 5,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher that we've never seen before. He continues to grow. They continue to help build around him. They continue to support him. They brought in James Conner to help the run game that still has Chase Edmonds. They brought in A.J. Green to help complement and have a true wide receiver threat, along with, some of they are older guys, but I think it lends itself to the offense. And the defense, they drafted, I believe, Collins. They have Isaiah Simmons. They have Budda Baker. They have Chandler Jones. They have Malcolm Butler, and now they have J.J. Watt. That's a defense of names. That's a lot of good names, and it's going to be a better defense than last year. The West is strong. It's a fight. It's a hard heavyweight fight. The West with a lot of good defenses, and I think Arizona joins that crew this year. I think they have what it takes to win that division, and I certainly expect them to make the playoffs. And I think they have to win a playoff game for it to be considered a successful step forward or a successful growing campaign for the Kingsbury, Kyler Murray era.
Awesome. Andy, contenders, pretenders are in the middle on the Cardinals.
Truthfully, I got to say in the middle right now with a huge upside, I will say. You take a look at what the Arizona Cardinals have done, and Ken has definitely alluded to it. The additions of A.J. Green at the wide receiver position, the addition of J.J. Watt on the defensive side, and then bringing in second-year guys on the defensive side like Isaiah Simmons and rookie Zaven Collins on the defensive side really give the Cardinals a lot of upside defensively. And, of course, in the secondary you have, stars like Budda Baker, and then bringing in Malcolm Butler in the offseason as well really definitely helps them from a defensive standpoint and gives them a huge opportunity. But my biggest question is not the skill set, if you will, of Kyler Murray, but his durability. And will he be healthy enough for a full 16-game season? The way that he plays, he's just with vigor on, just from a playmaking standpoint. We saw that he was not healthy all year last year, and it really hampered them down the stretch. They were prime, looking like a top 2 or 3 potential seed if they were playing as great as they were all year last year. But then they really faded down the stretch with, Kyler Murray being banged up, and they just didn't have enough defensively with that. So I think they have a great opportunity. But I think the NFC West baseball season now, NL, but NFC West will be decided potentially with what Julio Jones, could he be traded to some place in the division? Will it be San Francisco? Will it be Seattle? We'll see. That could be a huge boost for any team in that division. Won't be Arizona, but it could be one of those two teams that could give one of those two teams a boost in the West. So we'll see. I think it's to be determined. I think Arizona has a lot of talent, and we're seeing that talent develop over time, but I just don't know if it's going to be this year. The NFC West is wide open. To me, though, Arizona is on the rise. Just I'm not sure if the Super Bowl contender is what we're going to label them as yet.
No, absolutely. I definitely agree. I think playoff contender is definitely where I label them, pretty much like you had them, Andy, and Ken pretty much had them as that, as well as definite playoff contender, Super Bowl contender, maybe not there yet, but I definitely see Kyler, like Ken said, taking a step forward in this season and doing even better with the weapons that he's been given. So let's go ahead and move into a fantasy segment. I want one player from each of you that are must-have. You're drafting no matter what. You're definitely going to target them this year. I'm going to go ahead and start this off. My fantasy must-have this year, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a first-round pick. It could be anywhere. But my fantasy must-have this season is A.J. Brown. So last season, A.J. Brown was the 30th most targeted receiver in the NFL, behind players like Cole Beasley and Russell Gage. But he ranked number 2 in yards per route run and number 7 in points per game. If he gets 25 more targets, he's a legitimate wide receiver 1. Right now, he's probably a wide receiver 2 or 3. But if he gets 25 more targets from Tannehill and does what he did last year, he's a number 1 receiver, maybe a guy that sneaks into the end of the first round in the following year. Ken, I'm going to start this one off with you. Who's a fantasy must-have, regardless of round? You need to have him on your team this year.
Can I cheat and give you 2?
I'll allow it, but I'll also allow Andy to give 2 then.
Yes, that's fair. Accepted. I'm going to start things off with a tight end. I think he's going to become an industry darling as drafts start to ramp up, but TJ Hawkinson is going to join that crew of the elites this year. The elites meaning Kelsey, Waller, Kittle, the elites that previously occupied Gronkowski and Ertz. That's what we're dealing with Hawkinson this year. He's going to take that step. I think it's almost a slam dunk. It's probably as much of a slam dunk as you can expect. They have Goff. Goff has had success with tight ends in the past. Jared Everett, Tyler Higbee have both been fantasy relevant at the same time on the same team. And Detroit is a wasteland for pass-catching talent. For the players on Detroit that had over 300 receiving yards last year were Kenny Golladay, who was gone, Quintez Cephas, who is probably not very good, DeAndre Swift, who is a running back, Danny Amendola, who is gone, TJ Hawkinson himself, and Marvin Jones Jr., who is gone. They vacated everything. It's a brand new offense, basically, with Goff at the helm. And he's going to connect with somebody, and I think it's going to be Hawkinson. I expect very great things. My other guy is a running back. It's a running back that you can get after pick 120, which is insane. But it's Mike Davis, the Atlanta Falcons running back. The reason I like him is because I was a CMC owner last year who painfully had to live through that injury-riddled season. But Mike Davis cushioned that blow quite a bit. There were probably 3 or 4 weeks where Mike Davis was a top 10 PPR running back. I expect more of that. Atlanta is going to be bad. There's going to be a very big presence vacating Atlanta in the next couple of weeks. That would be Julio Jones. And I'm not sure Atlanta, I mean, I'm a little surprised by the depth they have at running back. I don't know if they're going to bring in another name. They have Quadri Allison as their number 3 back, Cordero Patterson as the number 2 back, which doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me personally. I expect Mike Davis to see a huge snap count, receive a ton of passing down work, receive all of the goal line carries, and probably be one of the sneakiest and less sexy top 20 running backs in standard and PPR this year.
I like those picks. Viggy Money. Give me two Viggy Money picks.
Yeah, no, I think those are great picks, Ken. I especially like the Mike Davis one, and I'm going to kind of take, similar team approach here, a similar reasoning, but go on the wide receiver side. Shane, how much I love my wide receivers in fantasy football. You know it more than anybody. We've played 15 plus years together in fantasy football. Calvin Ridley, to me, is a must-have this year. With the presence of Julio Jones, Julio Jones leaving potentially more than likely the Atlanta Falcons, I think he's just going to take a huge step forward this year. really kind of cementing himself as the number one go-to receiver in that Atlanta Falcons offense. We really saw that he was really Matt Ryan's go-to guy from a touchdown standpoint, more so than Julio Jones. I'm trying to bring up Calvin Ridley's numbers just from over the last couple seasons since he's come into the league. He had 9 touchdowns last season, and he's had 26 touchdowns over the first 3 years of his career. So Matt Ryan is a huge Calvin Ridley fan, and Julio leaving is going to bump up Calvin's presence even more. So I really, really like anybody offensively on Atlanta is going to get a boost with Julio more than likely going to another team. You could add Kyle Pitts even as a rookie into that conversation. Russell Gage at the wide receiver position as well. It's just everybody's going to get a bump up in that offense, but really targeting Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to have a breakout season, potentially 10-plus touchdowns, I think is a very good bet. 12 to 13, 1,400 receiving yards, I think is a strong bet as well. He did have 1,300 yards last year, even with Julio Jones. So really, you could imagine a 1,500-yard season if he stays healthy and if everybody else can get involved in that as well, and they just don't double team him. But I think Calvin's got the speed; they can move him around. Not just on one end of the field facing the number one cornerback. So I really like Calvin this year a lot. And more of an obvious pick, he's a guy you would draft in the first round here. DeAndre Hopkins is a must-have for me. We just talked about the Arizona Cardinals and what they can do, what kind of talent that they have. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins a couple weeks ago as well on the air. He just does not drop the football. 8 drops, I believe 8 drops over the course of the last 4 years, 5 years. He just does not drop the football with his target range. 1,400 yards last year, 1,400 yards last season, 115 receptions. He's climbed the century mark 3 straight years, over 100 receptions. Kyler Murray's going to look to him this year, and I don't think he gets doubled as much with adding guys like AJ Green to the mix in Arizona and that talent that they have. Chase Edmonds emerging as their top back this year in the passing game as well. I think he'll be a huge target as well. So there's a lot of mouths to feed in Arizona, which I think is a good thing for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. Unlike where he was in Houston, where he could just get double teamed. I think in his second year in Arizona, he really continues to shine with Kyler Murray, and you're going to want that on your fantasy team this year, bar none.
Great picks from you, gentlemen. Great picks. Now it's time for me to have a little fun. Uh-oh. You know what that means. It's time for a segment that's similar to Around the Horn. I'm going to give each of you one player you have to defend, and you have to defend them. Okay, Andy? You have to defend them. You cannot talk trash. And whoever has the best defense, I'll give them a point. I'm going to keep record of this. So it's you versus Ken in this 1v1. And our first one is Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. And guess what, Viggy Betts? You're defending Brady.
Oh, you bastard. You son of a bitch. What is going on? This is not right.
Kembo, you're getting A-Rod.
This is not right.
This is awful.
Kembo, give me your defense of A-Rod. Let's go.
What a segment. This sucks. Wow.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, I'm first.
You're first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're going to defend A-Rod first, brother.
Okay. Well, I mean, what really – so for those unaware, I've been one of Aaron Rodgers' biggest critics over the years. And this is coming from somebody who has had him probably 3 or 4 times in fantasy and has enjoyed most of them. He has the ability to basically make a team relevant by himself. Not a lot of players can do that. He came out last year really ready to go, was fired up from the team having signed, it was the team having signed Jordan Love. You could tell that there was a resurgence, and I think a lot of people sort of came out and expected it. He threw, I believe it was 48 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, which is just incredible numbers, completed 70% of his passes. He was a slam dunk MVP in a year where Patrick Mahomes was also at an elite level, as usual, and in a year where there were plenty of other quarterbacks to consider, such as Russell Wilson as well. Damn, it's really hard not to say anything bad. And as far as how many more years are left, I think if Aaron has his head on straight and he's motivated and he's game motivated, he is going to want to win. He doesn't want to win in Green Bay. So if you're another team that might be a quarterback away, a Washington, a Denver, one of these sort of middle teams, maybe even Minnesota, not that they would ever in a million years trade him there. But if you're one of these middle tier teams that needs a quarterback to win, Aaron Rodgers might very well be your guy, because there's probably not a lot of quarterbacks out there who could get traded to a brand new system, pick up that new system in near zero time, and then go out there and have you be automatically an 11-5, 12-4 team. There is a reason why the Packers are always at the top of the power rankings and why they're always at the top of the odds and the projections when the early season polls come out. And that is because of Aaron Rodgers, the only one man that does that. Devontae Adams, these other receivers, these other players, I don't think they are what they are without Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah.
I hate to disprove your theory of the quarterback who can join a new system, and just, the only one that can do that is Aaron Rodgers, because my man Tom Brady just went out, joined a new system.
I know.
Super Bowl. Okay, my boy Tom Brady did that.
There we go. I actually love this. I've been waiting my whole life to hear Andrew J. Vigilati defend Brady. Continue, Andy. This is beautiful.
Yeah, you owe me a big time lunch or dinner, by the way, for this too, because I'm not doing this because of my health. But let's look at Brady over the years. Obviously, you can look at his stats, okay? 581 touchdowns, or I'm sorry, 581 touchdowns, and we know the yardage, we know all of his accolades, right? But really what it comes down to is his ability to just get the best out of all of his teammates. We saw it in New England, guys like Wes Welker, who would probably not have fared, he would not be a Hall of Fame type of player anywhere but New England because of how Tom Brady incorporated him into the offense. Same with Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman, had he gone anywhere else, not saying that he would have been a producer at the wide receiver position, but he surely – we're talking about him debating whether he's a Hall of Famer or not. And no one would ever consider that had he not played for Tom Brady. Tom Brady leaves the New England Patriots after winning 6 Super Bowls, which pains me to no end, and just goes down to Tampa Bay. Mind you, in a COVID-type offseason where there's minimal training camp, there's minimal really interaction with his teammates, right? Learning a complete new offense. He played for Brady, he played for Belichick. He played in that system for 20 years. And, mind you, goes to Bruce Arians, who kind of is a stickler. You know what I mean? He's not an easy guy to play for, especially if you're Tom Brady. You're learning a new system. You want to kind of do things your way a little bit. They definitely butted heads throughout the season. It was not an easy transition. We saw probably first half of the season, we were wondering, is this going to work? Is this, are the Buccaneers even going to make the postseason? It just was not a crisp. It was not a crisp first half of the season, but you know what? I really believe that Tom Brady kind of cemented himself with that team, said, let me take you to the promised land. And that's exactly what he did. We saw in the postseason it was vintage Brady. Vintage, especially with the weapons that he had with Antonio Brown, Mike Evans. And really in the Super Bowl, it was all about Rob Gronkowski. It was what he knew best. And you really just don't see a quarterback, not Aaron Rodgers, not anybody. Maybe Patrick Mahomes as he continues down his career. I think maybe we can look at Patrick and say that could be the case. But right now, Tom Brady in his age, 42, 43 season coming up is going to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl again. And why? Because he gets the best out of his teammates, and he's really the only quarterback that you can say that just makes everybody around him better, maximizes all of his talent, and can go really anywhere, sign with any team, and they're considered the favorite to win the Super Bowl. I mean, there's nothing else to say about Tom Brady. You don't even have to talk about his numbers. He goes anywhere, signs with any team, and they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
I love it. Before I make my decision on who wins this round, one of our viewers, Anthony, asked if the NRF5 has been put out. It has. The Ask Us Podcast exclusive NRF5 for the day is the Oakland A's versus Seattle Mariners, Chris Bassett versus Marco Gonzalez. That is the exclusive NRFI for today. Moving on, the winner of that round, I got to give it to my man Viggy for talking about Brady. That was awesome. Ken, you got one more chance this week to
Daddy's a big actor. Daddy's a big-time actor. What can you do?
You got one more chance to tie it this round.
Oh.
Our final round for this week is Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert. Ken, I'm giving you Burrow.
Oh, you are? All right.
Andy, you're getting Herbert. Andy, what are your thoughts on Herbert? Defend him. Tell me why he's better than Burrow and everyone needs to love Herbert.
Everyone needs to love Herbert. Yeah, I mean, I love Justin Herbert, and really what we saw from Herbert last year is really the ascension to what he's going to have in an outstanding career. You talk about a rookie quarterback who threw 31 touchdowns just to 10 interceptions, 1.7% interception percentage as a rookie quarterback last season. I mean, you talk about some of the greats who have played this game, who have had just awful rookie seasons. You know, one of them being Peyton Manning, who had 27 interceptions in his rookie season. I mean, obviously it's a different day and age with the quarterbacks, but Justin Herbert, to me, I think they're just going to continue to bring in guys around him. You know, you have guys like, Keenan Allen, who's still there. Obviously, they lost their tight end, Hunter Henry, that went to the New England Patriots in the offseason. But they still have a lot of talent around him. They drafted a couple running backs in the last couple of years. They still have Austin Eckler, strong talent there at the running back position. Justin Herbert's going to be one of those guys that just makes everybody better. And you just, to me, it's tough. I love Burrow, but Justin Herbert is going to be the guy who I think can supplant Patrick Mahomes eventually here in the AFC West. Maybe not this year, but I think Herbert's going to be the guy who's going to really kind of give Patrick Mahomes a run for his money here as we move forward.
Those are big shoes. Lawyer Slice, what's the word on Burrow?
I'm actually kind of glad you gave me Burrow, not just because I believe in him more than Herbert, but because I sort of think it's the counter flip of the argument that we just had. I believe that Herbert is going to be an elite NFL quarterback, but I don't know to what level that will translate towards the winning sort of career that Tom Brady has. That would be my biggest concern with him. Whereas to me, Burrow checks all the right boxes. He cares. He gets it. He has that swagger, that it factor, and he's the type of guy that I think I would want to build my team around. Every competition that he has faced, he's overcome. He faced top defense after top defense in his college career, and I believe his lowest rating of any game was a 70.4, which is still more than or above average as far as quarterback grades go. And, maybe that's just that Chargers mentality, but if the Bengals are able to give him the supporting cast that they should be giving to a top tier draft pick, such as Joe Burrow, that limited his season last year, which was a pretty damn good rookie season, limiting turnovers, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, limited to 10 games, of course, with the torn ACL, but he gets it. He has positive touchdown regression coming. Maybe that comes with some more interceptions as he has the ball in his hands more, but he's also got improved weapons around him. He does have an improved roster. It's going to be a better season for Joe Burrow. And I would wonder, are we going to see a better Justin Herbert, or did we see a Justin Herbert that was already very, very good? How much more will we see him take another step forward so quickly? I think a lot of people got into the Justin Herbert hysteria because he was the quarterback of the rookie class last year. But I don't think that would have been nearly as wide a gap had Joe Burrow not suffered a torn ACL on what I consider an absolute dumpster fire of a team, where he still, I think, performed admirably. And some of the things that won me over with him was last year, where he would go out, he would have his 2 touchdown game, he would lead the team back, but then the team would win. I believe they lost on a missed PAT early on in the season. And when asked about it, Joe Burrow's response was that he needs to be better. And that reminds me of the GOAT himself. And I think those are some, if Andy wants to compare Herbert to Mahomes, then I'm just going to compare Burrow to Brady. And we know who has the number between Brady and Mahomes. So I'm going to give it to Joey B and see and let him run with it.
I love it. I love it. The talk has been great, but it comes down to does Viggy Betts go 2-0 to start off our Around the Horn segment, or does Kenbo tie it up? And I got to go with my man Ken here. The points about Burrow were just too much. I thought the Herbert to Mahomes comparison, or that Herbert could be better, is a stretch just for now. But I think I liked the Burrow conversation a bit more. So that means we're 1-1 heading into next week. Andy, you want to talk a little trash? Say you're going to beat why you're going to beat him next week?
Hey man, I love my man Ken, but let's go Viggy money. I think gave Ken that one, man.
I am the underdog.
I felt a little bad about just crushing him with Tom Brady facts figures, so I had to give him that one.
I think Ken enjoyed the Brady facts, to be honest.
I know, it was great. I really enjoyed hearing that side of you, Andy. You should bring it up more often.
So moving on, we're going to go into Ken's Collectible Corner. One of my favorite topics every week. Ken, what's going on this week? And we know we had the Dallas card show. Things look to be heating up in the card market. What's up?
Yeah, there was a lot of money moving. I saw a lot of crazy stuff going down. The one that really jumped out, I believe, don't quote me on the exact figures, but the guy who traded 2 Mike Trout rookies plus, was it 40,000?
$70K.
$70,000 plus 2 Trout rookies for a Justin Herbert Optic Contenders autograph, which was numbered to
1 of 1.
1, numbered to 1. So it was a true 1 of 1. That's insane. That is insane. If you think about that guy is hedging a humongous bet. He's taking 2 Mike Trout rookies and $70,000 of his own money, and putting it into a Justin Herbert card that he hopes to flip for, based off of those numbers, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And those are sort of these big players that have entered the hobby. They're buying high and they're selling higher. And then that's kind of how I've been seeing this trajectory go. And there's some very, very, very good consignment places on Twitter and on Instagram where people are sending these high value cards without comps. These cards don't have comps. There is no comp on a 1/1 Justin Herbert auto out of Contenders because there's only one of them. You set the comp. So if these guys can find buyers, it's a money-making opportunity. And I think that's really what we're seeing a little bit right now with some of the big players, flipping $100,000 of card product into $200,000 of card product with relative ease. And, there is risk. He has to wait for football season to heat up. He has to hope that Justin Herbert doesn't tear his ACL or God forbid something bad happens to him during training camp or preseason. But that's kind of, I think where this thing is heading right now. It's been a quiet week for football. The 2021 quarterbacks have started to hit the market, albeit in college uniforms. We ourselves are breaking some Panini Legacy tomorrow night. 4 autographs, 2 boxes. We'll be doing that on my Twitch, Kembo J Slice, same handle. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. But yeah, that's sort of where we are in terms of releases as we wait for some more football to come out, which we were talking before the show. I believe we have Prism draft picks. We have Panini Luminance with great photography. We have Don Russ Elite. A couple others coming up down the pipeline, but we'll really start to see the big ones coming in the summer months. That's where the summer football season really heats up for football breaking. Meanwhile, you got the baseball stuff. We have Topps Finest. That's coming out either this week or next. I can't totally recall, but we got Topps Finest. We'll certainly be breaking that. Topps Series 2, flagship Series 2 will be out soon. That's always a very exciting one to see. It's very exciting because Series 1 comes out before the season, so they kind of release some prospects, and some of them, Joe Adell, we don't ever see. Pache, we don't see. Some of the others, like Alec Baum, haven't really blown up yet.
Speaking of Adele, he hit a monster shot today.
Yeah, so I saw he has the minor leagues obviously started after the major leagues, and he has something like 14 home runs, and he's striking out 50% of the time. Like, he's literally a home run or strikeout right now, which I want to see him in the majors soon because I think that's interesting. I want to see how he does. It might equate to not so great numbers. But yeah, you got some guys that are going to have their rookies in Series 2. I'm hoping you'll see Kalenic. That'll be a hot one people will go for. Cabrian Hayes, I'm sure, is a lock for Series 2 because you're starting to see his rookie pop up in Heritage and Bowman and some other products. So he's a foregone conclusion. You might see Yerman, the stud of the White Sox, who's obviously been taking off. And we'll see who else comes out of the Series 2 rookies. But yeah, it's still baseball season. Prices are high. Football, you still have that little window where you can jump in, make some quick, cheap buys. Kyler, we've been talking a lot about Kyler. His prices have dipped, partially because of the shoulder, but I mean, we all believe in the talent. All 3 of us today have said something good about Kyler Murray. There's other quarterbacks too. It's funny. A lot of the 2020 quarterbacks have taken off, but you can still get some of the other quarterbacks who haven't broken out yet that might still, guys like Daniel Jones, they're really cheap. I don't necessarily love Daniel Jones, but if you like him, you could get some exposure to him. Kyler's another big one, just a real big dip because of the 2020 hysteria. And then basketball, same type of thing. Me being a Tatum and Jalen Brown collector, I was able to buy some Jalen Brown. He runs like a bad little kid. That is for sure. That is for sure. As far as the basketball season goes, if the Suns or Giannis or Embiid or Kevin Durant, whichever one of those guys sort of makes that deep run and really takes over. Trae Young is another one. That's good. Those are going to be the guys whose cards really surge. So I've been taking an opportunity to buy some Jalen Brown, who's obviously out for the season, and buy some Jason Tatum, who looks like his career or his playoff season is winding down as we speak with one more quarter to go. So yeah, the buys right now are probably the basketballs and the football, the basketball guys who are out, and the football guys who have dipped the last year. The buys to probably avoid, I would say, are some of the upper echelon baseball talent. You're going to be paying peak prices for Tatis, for Acuna, for Soto. Well, Soto, not so much. Vlad, you're going to be paying peak prices for Vlad. Basketball, you'll be paying peak prices for Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. But other than that, some of the lesser tier baseball rookies have dipped. Some of the football rookies before 2020 have dipped. And some of the basketball talent that's either already been knocked out or on the course of being knocked out has dipped. So that's probably where my head would be at if you were making any purchases. I don't know, Shane, what have you been buying the last week?
So first I just want to touch on the 1-of-1 Herbert that was bought at the Dallas Card Show. So a guy I respect in the industry a ton, and I watch a lot of videos he puts out, is Card Collector 2. Who's really an OG of the hobby. He was saying that PWCC had an auction for the same 1-of-1, but Joe Burrow, Contenders auto, and that did $184K. So he's saying that this guy is going to hold on to Herbert. I guess he's a friend of Card Collector 2. He's going to hold on to the Herbert right before the season starts at the National in Chicago. Is right before the season starts, he's going to flip him there for $250,000 plus. He thinks that's going to be the play, and because football is going to be at its highest and hysteria is going to be wild, that someone's going to buy. And I got to believe that's a thing. I mean, I trust Card Collector 2's. I definitely trust his opinion because he's been in the industry for so long and he's seen these moves. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're really kind of, you're right. And I think, that's the National, which is the card show. I mean, we had all that money being thrown around at the Dallas Card Show. It's just kind of a fraction of what you're going to see thrown around at the National. So prepare for, I've never been. I'd love to go. It's a bucket list item. A buddy of mine's going this year. I'm really interested to see and hear about it because I think if you're really trying to make a big move, that's probably the place to do it. I have a card myself, not quite worth that much, that I'm hoping that I could, get in the 1.5 to 2K range, and I would love to take it to one of those card shows because I feel like that's where you're going to be able to move it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the big players are going to be. You had some big players in Dallas this past week, but all the big players are going to be at the National. And honestly, from what I've seen, you get the best deals at the card shows. So, I'm really looking at card shows in Florida right now. Definitely won't be making the National this year, but it's definitely, like Ken said, a bucket list item that I've got to do. And hopefully Ken and I can arrange something for next year, and we can attend and make some big moves. But Ken asked what I was picking up this week. So I picked up a guy nicknamed Captain America. Right, he is the leader of the U.S. men's national team, men's national soccer team. His name's Christian Pulisic. He became the first American to ever win a UEFA Champions League title this past weekend. So I picked up two of his cards. I picked up his Chelsea rookie, which he just won the UEFA title with, and I picked up just a Donruss card in his USA kit. I think both of those cards are going to be big plays, especially when the World Cup comes. Like we talked about last week, I think you're gonna see a lot more American collectors get in on it when the World Cup comes. So I'm slowly picking up as much Pulisic as I can because I think he's going to be hot, where I could move a $30 card for $150, $200 during that craze of the World Cup. So if I've got, 20 or 30 Pulisic graded cards, I'm making enough money to where I could flip that into some Kyler color or a big Patty Mahomes, something good. Speaking of Kyler, I went ahead. I also picked up his Prism rookie, but I went ahead and picked up his Select PSA 9. I think that's going to be a nice card. I think he's got a ton of room to grow. Another one that I got today, one of my favorites actually in my collection right now, is a PSA 9 Pop 1 Jerry Jeudy auto. It's a neon green Pulsar Prism rookie. Like I said, Pop 1. And a lot of these guys definitely care about the population count. And when you could get something like that, especially an on-card auto, and it's a Pop 1, that's money. And I got it for a great price. I don't want to say how much I spent on it, but I think it's something that I could, closer to the season, flip for $400 or $500.
That was going to be my question, Shane. I was wondering because I saw that one today. That one kind of got my attention because it was an autograph going into a second season. I was wondering how much you could get for that.
So that's his rookie, and it's a true rookie. PSA 9, great grade, Pop 1. I'm thinking as long as more don't come out from PSA before the football season starts, could be $400, $500, $600 card.
Yeah, to Shane's point, the pop is going to be key for that because you might see some more Judys hit the surplus, but you're not going to see a green Judy, in my opinion. You're probably not going to see another one of those, at least not with the autograph and the green parallel to it. And those are the kind of buys you really want to look for. And I think Shane. I remember Shane. Texting me, within the minute he bought it in pure excitement. And I shared some of his excitement and also some immense jealousy, as I would have jumped on that myself had I had the opportunity to do so. Would have gotten himself into a bidding war.
So it's crazy. Sorry to interrupt, but you're on eBay and they've got the offer option. You just send out an offer, and that's what I did with this Judy. And to my amazement, I was expecting it to get declined because they wanted upwards of $200 for it. And I just threw out – I even told Ken, I threw out the wildest lowball offer, and it just got accepted. And it was right after Ken's Chronicles break where I had the Broncos hoping to hit some Judy. I didn't hit Judy. I hit a cool KJ Hamler, but I was like, you know what? I want a Judy. I got to have it. So I just threw out some crazy lowball offer. And, hey, sometimes that works out. I did the same with the Verdugo green refractor. I had just had it. I don't know where oh, there it is. This is actually I'm sending to Ken because it's my second one. So I'm sending it to Ken because that's my boy. I got to hook up the boys. So he's getting that tomorrow. But I just threw out a lowball offer on my original one, and it got accepted. So if you're in the hobby and you're still kind of new and you want to get into graded cards, definitely throw out those offers because sometimes these guys, they sit on product for a while and they just want to move it. They just want some funds to be able to buy cards themselves. So they'll accept it. Ken, what do you think about that?
No, it's absolutely 100% the truth. And it's a good time for buyers right now, especially in the summer months as people, are spending money on other things. You have a little bit less in the funds to drop on cards. So if you're a buyer right now, it's actually a really, really good time to score up some deals, especially for the football season. I think it tends to happen every summer. I do tend to gravitate towards some of the football myself, and it is baseball season, so baseball is kind of front and center. But to Shane's point, the people are, they're concerned about what's hot next week. So if you have a little bit of foresight and you can do a little bit of forward thinking, you can score some deals like that. You can grab some Kyler Murray's, I'm sorry, I forget his name, from the UEFA League. But you grab these. Yeah, you grab these. Like Shane's point, I didn't even necessarily think about the fact that the U.S. is not a big soccer country, and as we approach the World Cup and we have U.S. viewership, the card market hasn't seen a World Cup yet since the COVID spike. So it's certainly possible that you're going to see a lot of people jumping out and looking to buy some of these U.S. and maybe even some of these international talents. To Shane's point, he shared some of his favorite cards that he was able to score a deal on. My favorite card is actually one that I also scored a deal on. The guy listed it on eBay, and I got it for exactly 50% of what he wanted. I made a 50% offer, and he accepted it, and it is my guy, Derrick Henry. That is the Mosaic Obsidian. What is it? Genesis. It's funny. I said Obsidian. You know why I said Obsidian? because the guy I bought this from thought it was Obsidian. That's why it was on my mind. So the guy that I bought this from listed it on eBay. He listed on eBay as Obsidian. It is actually Mosaic. It is Genesis. It's a super short print. You don't find them. It's not numbered, but I believe it's some ridiculously low print count. I bought that on eBay for half price. And while I'm here just showing my cards, I did want to just throw out there, my Pride and Joy card is actually one that I pulled myself. So we were doing a break. One of our first ones, I actually bought a Donruss 2020 hobby box, and I gave everybody a team. We all pitched in. It was all fair game, and I got the Titans purposefully for my Derrick Henry man crush. And somehow, some way, I was blessed enough to pull a Derrick Henry numbered auto to 25. I don't know. Vig might have even been in that break. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. One of our first breaks, and I was in shock. You can probably go back and watch the video. I was probably like shaking. I was like, Jesus, this is the Derrick Henry auto. This is my one PC. So that's a story that always resonates with me as a breaker. One of the best pulls I've ever had in a break, and it just so happened to be that I pulled it myself. It's not typically something you would see.
I know that was a great break, and I loved when you pulled that for yourself because, it's always great to get good cards. And you did mention we're breaking Legacy tomorrow. So on air, I wanted to extend an invite to Viggy Betts. I am going to give him one of the teams I bought. He's going to get the Giants.
Oh.
So you're going to get some Kadarius Toney rookies maybe. Just to spread the love. That's a big thing with the hobby that I love is spreading the love, getting more people involved. Just like I told Ken, I racked him a card earlier this week. I saw it go on Twitter. It was for a great deal. I knew Ken didn't have it. It was another Derrick Henry card to go for his PC, a Mosaic hobby insert that you don't see a lot. Mm-hmm. So I just went ahead and I said, you know what? I'm going to buy this because I know Ken's going to love it. I sent the guy Ken's address. I don't know if Ken's gotten it yet.
Not yet.
But, I bought it over the weekend, so he may have mailed it out today. But
that's the best part of the hobby, it's doing stuff like that because it comes back around as you do it. The good people definitely remember it, and it does come back around for you. And
Biggie, just so you know, 4 teams are locked right now, so you get to draft an additional team. So you got to be there tomorrow. You have a chance at getting Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, or Trey Lance. Those are the 4 teams that are locked. And if you hit a big Trevor Lawrence, you better share the profits with me, boy.
I got you. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best part about the hobby is sharing. Ken, I got to know. We talk all the time about cards. I need to know your off-the-wall thinking on one person to invest in right now that maybe not a lot of people are thinking about.
The one person to invest in now that has dipped so much. It's funny. The guy I really want to go hard in is kind of already seen a spike, but it's nothing compared to what's going to happen when he actually hits the field. And that to me is prospect for the Seattle Mariners, Julio Rodriguez. I think he is an otherworldly talent. I think he is a lock future Hall of Famer. I think he is the next Griffey Jr. Whatever you want to comp this kid, he is going to be elite. A lot of the hobby does know that already, but some of the hobby doesn't, and you can still get some of his cards for a decent price. Not necessarily his first Bowman, but that's okay. The savvy thing to do would be to grab some of his, his colored Bowman, not even necessarily his first, but if you can grab some Bowman of his, that's short print, that's parallel, in anticipation of him eventually coming to the majors, and then, of course, we're loading up on his rookie. That's a guy that I love buying with the understanding that he is not necessarily on a dip. If you're looking for somebody on a dip, my guy is Jalen Brown. That's That's my PC that I'm stocking up on. The hobby does have a very short-sighted vision, and they're looking for what's going to be hot next week. Jalen Brown is the uber professional. He is a very stand-up guy. He is an immense talent. He is what I consider to be one of a perfect basketball player mold, and he's somebody that I'm going to be buying, especially while he's on this dip. So, yeah, we had Julio Rodriguez. We had and it goes back to the fantasy take. But tight ends don't get a lot of love, but TJ Hawkinson's going to see some run, and that's going to go up. And if you really want somebody that's going to narrow the gap, the prices between Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, the parity is huge, and I'm not sure it's warranted. If you're a believer in Dak Prescott and in Dallas, you got to believe that they're going to come back strong, and the Dak to CD connection is going to pick up where it left off, and CD's going to build upon those numbers he had with Dak. That certainly took a hit without Dak. That saw a lot of people anoint Justin Jefferson as the greatest rookie wide receiver of all time. He earned that. I mean, he is fantastic, but I don't think the gap is as big as some people would think. And I think you see that a lot in breaks where the Vikings are usually always going off the board before the Dallas Cowboys are, and also going for cheaper than the Vikings. The Cowboys are going cheaper than what the Vikings are. So, yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb is somebody to look out for as well.
Absolutely. And real quick before we end, I just wanted to say my guy that I'm looking at, I already showed you, it's Jerry Jeudy. I'm trying to get as much color, prism, and select that I can get, graded, of course, because I think the Aaron Rodgers to Denver thing is more of a when, not an if. I think Elway's gonna go get him. I don't see him not going to Denver at some point. Might not be this year, but potentially. Either way, Denver's going to get a quarterback, and they'll probably get a good one.
I mean,
either way, that's going to rise Jeudy.
I could legitimately see Jeudy developing into like a Devontae Adams type of player if that were to happen. Like, I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, Rodgers.
That's the thing. I think CD and Jefferson get all the love, but Judy's just as good. I think Jeudy could be actually better, but he's had such horrible quarterback play. And, I mean, he still had a good season last year. So I'm trying to get as much autograph stuff, as much graded autograph stuff as I can. Definitely looking for color. So if you're listening, you listen on Spotify, you watch the YouTube. If you got Jeudy, hit me up in the DMs. You can hit me up at Ask Us Sports or S_Miller_27. That's my main account. Hit me up. Tell me what you got. Let's work a deal. I'm always willing to trade. I got tons of slabs. Ken's seen my little stash, my little suitcase. I know Ken's got a little suitcase. I know he's always looking. Ken, tell everyone where we can find you.
You can find me right there. I think the handle is right there on the bottom left of your screen, Kenbo J Slice on Twitter. DM me any questions. You can always reach out to me. Though you can also find us at our Breaking Co. EC Breaking Co. East Coast Breaking Company. That's sort of our card profile face, if you will, and that's where a lot of our breaks are posted, our buys, our sells, our giveaways, and everything in between. So whether you're looking for me or for Shane or for the Breaking Co. in general, we won't ignore you if you reach out to us on our personal. You can reach out to us on Ask Us Sports if you really want to. We won't care. But that's where you'll find me on there all day, every day. So don't hesitate.
And that's the thing. Also, real quick, to those that are probably watching on my personal Facebook, if you're ever interested in getting into cards or anything, you can always message me. I'm always willing to answer questions. Even if we haven't talked in years and you're on my Facebook and you're listening, please reach out. You can hit that join the Discord link. We've got such a good community there. Viggy Betts is part of it. You want to reach out to Viggy Betts, Viggy Money. Tell me where I can follow you and get the best NRFI bets in the world.
At Viggy Bets, right there. At Viggy Bets, we got one more NRFI tonight starting in the next 15 minutes or so. And
I hope you were tuning in.
Yeah. Make sure you were tuning in, but we got one more, and I'll give it to you one more time in case we have a couple late stragglers coming in, and that is Oakland at Seattle. That's the Chris Bassett versus Marco Gonzalez NRFI. First pitch scheduled for 10:10 Eastern Time, and you can find all my daily NRFIs at Viggy Bets on Twitter.
Amazing. And once again, the Ask Us Sports podcast play of the day is Viggy Bets NRFI, Oakland versus Seattle, Chris Bassett versus Marco Gonzalez. You can find us all at our socials that we mentioned. We love it. We're going to see you next week. I love you guys. Everyone have a wonderful night.